Essentially, Buyanom.com is all about simplifying the process of matching mares with stallions and their nomination process. So, the way Luke described it to me when I first met him over a gin and tonic just here nearby was, it's basically like Tinder for horses. That is how it all works, but I had a whole load of questions for Luke when he tried to explain it, so let's get Luke Livingston and Ted Vow up on the stage to talk the whole thing through with us. Round the corner. Right, Ted, I'm going to start with you. What is Buyanom.com all about?
Well, the last couple of years, I've sort of had a number of nominations that I've tried to sell for various clients of mine and some of my own portfolio. And we weren't getting them all sold. So, and some of them were quite good stallions. And I just felt that we needed some sort of medium to be able to do that. So Luke and I bumped into each other, and I said to him that I thought there were a number of breeding rights now available that hadn't been before, and jockeys, agents, and trainers. They're concentrating on their day job, and halfway through the season realising they haven't sold their nominations. And Luke and I sat down and said we'd try and create something that would be quick and easy to trade them from now on.
Yeah, quick and easy, hence the website that has been created. Look, you two are obviously very familiar to everybody in the room here, but there are lots of brains behind Buyanom.com. Just tell us a bit about the team.
Yeah, there sure are. Some very, very brilliant people, I have to say. I called a client of mine called Simon Chappell, who immediately introduced us to Mike Madden and Chris. Where is Chris? Chris Powell. And Ted and I met them in Manchester in February, and we've been working towards this evening ever since.
So from that video, I basically got the understanding that there are plenty of people with nominations that either don't get them sold or don't get the price that they want, and then there's mare owners who are out there that want to get access to those stallions but don't find the simplest way to do it. So this is about bringing it into the 21st century, about really bringing it in line with everything else that we do these days on our phone or on a website. And the idea is that it's easy to navigate it.
Sorry?
It's easy to navigate.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, very easy to navigate. So, I mean, we've got the website here with the logo and all the choices on the top.
Okay, so let's do an example. Right, I actually do have a mare, and I actually do need a nomination for the mare. So my mare is called Blondakova. She's currently residing at Fittock Stud. And I have already bought my membership to Buyanom.com. So I've already logged in. There I am, Francesca Kamani on the top right. So I would need to work out how I'm going to find my mare and then find the right nomination. Talk me through it.
So you log on, as you've done, and you become a member. You go to put your mare on, you go to mare offers, click on mare offers, and you go down to the red add them here. You start to type in your name, the name of your mare. You check that it's got the right suffix and spelling, and up comes the information straight from Weatherby's. You put in, update the last cover date of this season. It comes up with all the other information, check you've got the right mare with the right breeding, and you come down to the breeding history, which will give you the last few years of the produce.
So it's all there. So thankfully, with the link up with Weatherby's, I don't have to do too much myself.
And it's accurate, and it's there instantly.
Okay, so the most important bit here is I need a stallion. I need to decide where I'm going to find that stallion and how much I want to pay for it. So there's my mare, and now I need to go about finding it. So I think my criteria are going to be stallion has to be in England.
Okay.
And?
How much would you like to spend on Blondie Cova?
What? Yes, as little as possible.
That couldn't possibly be your father there, Francesca.
Yeah. No heckling from the audience. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, no, okay, so Blondakova, I'm going to spend up to £15,000 on her.
Okay, so your criteria are breeding in the UK and spending a maximum of £15,000. So you can do that on the website. You can sort by those criteria, put in 0, 15,000 as your maximum. And here immediately come all the stallions standing in the UK at up to £15,000, and you can sort through those.
Okay, so even if I haven't decided yet who I want to go to, it narrows it down to all those stallions that are in the UK for £15,000 or
And it's
under.
it's important to realise here that all the stallions that are listed on Buyanom.com can only ever be listed at the advertised farm price. So that's all anybody will ever see on the site.
Okay, right, so yeah, I get that. Right, I need to go and find the potential stallion I want. Who am I going to go for?
I think you might fancy Buyanom Big Daddy for Blondie Covert. Sounds like a good mating to me.
Yeah, typical. You've also made me spend my full budget, £15,000 for Buyanom Big Daddy. I think he sounds particularly exciting. Right, let's go for him. 15,000. Do I have to pay the full amount?
Maybe, maybe not. The stallion is listed. The stud price is listed with VAT or otherwise, and the person who is listing the nomination will list it at the farm terms. They can also say how much commission, if they're going to pay a commission, which is quite standard in the business. They can pay a commission or they can pay a flat rate.
Okay, so I've got a few different options here. October 1st, special live full, free return live full, and then here I can choose my amount. So I am going to be generous and put the full offer in of 15,000. Then I've got a few more options here which I need to give for the nomination.
Yeah, this is important information that the nomination owner or the stud farm, whoever it may be, will need in order to decide whether they're going to accept your offer.
Okay, right, well that's all fairly simple. I accept the terms and conditions, and then I make my offer for Buyanom Big Daddy. Very popular stallion. Okay, but before that happens, what I want to know is how do those nominations get there? How did Buyanom Big Daddy get listed there? Can you help me through that, Ted?
Yeah, you go on to the stallion search, and you have your nomination that you wish to list. You have to list it at the advertised stud the fee.
But this is for everyone, isn't it? It's whether it is the stud standing the stallion or whether it's a trainer or a jockey or anyone that has a nomination to the stallion.
Yes, yeah. And the advertised stud fee is, we've got the feed from Weatherby's, so it comes from the Weatherby stud book, and we've double checked all the with the stud farms that they're listed identically.
Okay, so let's just pretend you are the proud owner of a nomination to Buyanom Big Daddy.
Yep.
You have to go about listing your nomination.
Yep. I go up to Stallion Search, click on Stallion Search, put in Buyanom Big Daddy.
We'll shorten it.
Or Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Buyanom. And list the nomination. It will come up with whether the seller has VAT, that you have listing it with VAT or Irish VAT or English VAT. Obviously, he stands in England. This is where you see whether you can list it with paying sales commission to the mare owner or the bloodstock agents that buying the nomination for a mare owner, and it can have the amount or a flat fee, whichever you decide. We're not going to pay a commission. Accept the terms, list the nomination. And up comes the two mares that have made an offer.
I feel like this page needs a bit of explaining. Okay, right, so that's the nomination there. That's the Big Daddy, Buyanom Big Daddy up there.
Yeah.
These are the mares that have shown an interest?
Yeah, they've already sent an offer.
Okay, so the blondes obviously like Buyanom Big Daddy. Blondakova, my mare, and Blonda Sky there.
Yeah.
But I'd really like you to acknowledge my offer. So shall we click on that from Blondakova? So I have offered 15,000.
Yeah.
And then you're going to accept it. And you can see it there. You still haven't agreed.
No.
You can either approve here, my offer, or...
Counter offer.
Right, not happy with it.
So Are you happy with the conditions? Or?
I'm happy with my offer, but I
Yeah.
think you're not happy with the contract
Absolutely.
type.
Yeah. So I think to myself that I would like to change the contract type from October 1st and counter and change the contract type to January the 1st. He obviously stands at Shadwell.
Okay, so then that comes back to me, and I can decide if I like your offer, and then I can go back with a different one, and that's how the process works. So from here, we have linked up, and whether we're disagreeing over the price or whether we're disagreeing over the contract type, we can go backwards and forwards. Eventually, we can agree to each other's offers or disagree. But what we haven't seen there in its entirety, Luke, is the fact that there are lots of Buyanom Big Daddies on there, and if I don't end up agreeing with Ted, I've maybe agreed with somebody else, so I might have even got it cheaper or got a different contract type.
Correct. So one of the important aspects of this is that Buyanom Big Daddy may have one nomination listing or more than one. It could be any number, but there is either a nomination available or unavailable, but there could be 5 or 6. So when you come on to the site and you're making your offer with Blondakova, when you make the offer, it will go to all the people who have listed their nominations on the site at the same time.
Okay, so if you're a nomination lister, a Buyanom Big Daddy, you'll get a notification on the website or even via an email. Correct, Mike? Yes. And then it's up to you whether to approve it or not. But presumably there's a bit of time relevance here, because you're going to have to be quick to accept the offer before someone else does.
Correct. You won't know how many people you're competing with. I mean, you might be the only show in town, but there might be 5 or 6 people out there, and you've got to look at that offer and and decide whether you're going to accept it or not.
Okay, and presumably this does also open up the area for negotiation. So if there's a stallion who I think I can get a bit cheaper, I'm going to try and get it cheaper. I'm going to ask for different prices for different nomination holders. But, before I fall off the stage, in reverse, it can go the other way. If there is a stallion in demand that you might be coming to late, the price can go up.
Yeah, and you could actually use a no guarantee contract, and you could you can accept a no guarantee price over the stud fee. So, especially on horses that are in hot demand, and there aren't any extra ones out there, and maybe you're selling a trainer's nomination, nomination, and so you could drive the price up beyond the advertised stud fee.
Okay, right, so what are we talking in terms of time? How soon before the site goes live and people can actually start getting their nominations on and getting their mares covered?
Well, we've got some very good nominations already pledged, but essentially the site will be operational for everybody to use in a couple of weeks when the stud fees are announced by all the stud farms.
Okay, and the most important thing that everybody in the room wants to know is cost. What are we looking at?
So it's £200 for anybody to be a member for the year, £100 to list a single nomination, and £100 paid by the broodmare owner once a deal has been completed.
Okay, well that sounds all very reasonable. And for the time being, we are operating in this part of the world. Any plans for global domination?
Yeah, we hope that we've developed it here. We want a lot of feedback. Luke and I have tweaked it to the best we know how. And if there's any suggestions, we'll try and incorporate them as we go along. The next thing we'd like to do is go to Australia with Alex, who's written the program, and Ben. They've incorporated facilities to go to Australia and America, and really that's where we want to head.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to emphasize that we want this to be something that is really good for everybody in this business. I think it's something that can be positive for everybody. One of the key aspects of this is confidentiality. So any offer that is ever made for any nomination on the site is entirely confidential between the person offering and the person listing.
That was actually going to be my next question. Why do you think Buyanom.com will succeed and will be helpful for the industry where other concepts that have been built on a similar premise haven't worked in the past? Who wants to answer that one?
Well, part of this is that, you know, the brilliance of the people that have got the technological capabilities, shall we say. Not everybody may have had the fortunate opportunity to meet people like Mike and Chris and Alex and Ben, who have built this house from February forwards. Secondly, I think in the past there have been some other similar things. There have been one or two things that have been auction orientated that perhaps didn't work. And I think more and more our daily lives we're buying and selling everything online. And so Ted and I felt very strongly, why not nominations?
No, I thought you had something to add there. But you talked about wanting to have the feedback from everybody in the room about how to improve the site, about how they think it's going to work best. So I think we should open up the floor to questions and see who's going to ask us some curveballs. Who wants to go first? Don't all put your hands up at once.
Hi. First of all, I think it's a fantastic idea, but are you saying that, I mean, obviously if stallions are struggling to fill, are we going to be bottom feeding on those horses? And secondly, if horses are very popular, are we going to end up with an auction situation whereby the stud fee could rise above the advertised stud fee?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that it's a free market and that the popular nominations will find their own level, and that may be more than the advertised stud fee. Again, as Francesca's pointed out, that is confidential either way, whether they make less than the advertised stud fee, or they make more. We've decided to list all the stallions from the Weatherby stud book as a starter, I think that people won't know the number of nominations. No one will be able to see that there's 10 nominations of a particular stallion, so it won't devalue the stallion in any shape or form like that. The membership, I think, will aid in the validity of the people using it and traceability, so that we don't, have people that are bidding on contracts that have no intention of buying them. So we felt that layer would give a lot more transparency. The number of contracts, I think, will be available on there, which the Buyanom contracts we've had drawn up, very similar to a TBA contract. And there'll also be there'll be the October 1st special life foal and stands and nurses, and the stud farms or bloodstock agents or whoever's listing the nomination will be able to put their own contract and their own terms on there.
I think that's a really good point. It's a good question, and it's also a good point that actually nobody really knows, other than the buyer and the seller, what the price was that was agreed. So it is all highly confidential, and the fact that the stallions are already listed at their advertised price. So it is really between the two individuals to decide how they want to go forward once they've made the connection on the website. Right, any more questions?
I'm coming. As it can be a bit of a problem in the industry, how do you credit check if you've got a nomination or sell it to a mare owner, how do you credit check them to make sure that actually come the 1st of October they'll actually honour their obligations?
How will you credit check? Well, it's a good question. Perhaps I could ask your question in a slightly different way. Do you want to be? Can you be in a position of finding out who the potential purchaser of a nomination is before you actually sign on the dotted line? And the answer to that is yes. How you do your own credit checks obviously is entirely up to you, but you don't have to sign on the dotted line before you know who you're dealing with.
Any more?
No, all quiet down here, I think.
No more questions?
Questions? Oh, here we go.
Any more questions?
Luke, hi. At the very back here. Fascinated by it, but tell me one thing. If I sign the contract and my mare for some reason or other cannot be covered, What's the arrangement then?
Well, I think the important thing here is that once, Buyanom doesn't have responsibilities outside of introducing a potential buyer and a potential seller. So that's no different to being in the real world where, something can happen, and we all know with horses that can happen. So, you're in that kind of a situation, it's no different to, if you'd signed a contract, outside of our site. You have to deal, you're in touch at that point. Once the contract's signed, you know who you're dealing with, and people have responsibilities to be open and honest with each other.
But is there an obligation there still? Once you sign the contract?
Is there an obligation?
For me to fulfill as a mayor, aside from that nomination?
I would say yes, there is. Unless there's a particularly good reason why your mayor can't be covered. Well, if she's if she's dead, she's dead, John. I can't help that. Well, the contract can't be fulfilled. I mean, if the mayor's dead, you can't breed her. I mean, it's not anybody's fault.
John, I think it's the same as if you buy it through a bloodstock agent and a similar thing happens, you ring the bloodstock agent and say, my mare died, and how are we going to unravel it? And it's exactly the same thing. You will know who sold you the nomination, and you would ring them up and say, how are we going to go forward?
Presumably it's the same in reverse, should the worst happen to the stallion as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he can't cover, then it's obviously the responsibility of the nomination owner to sort of to ring the mayor owner and say, I hear he won't be able to cover because he's off games or he's died, unfortunately, and it's the terms of the contract. It's all in the terms of the contract,
Okay.
as exists now.
Okay, well I hope we've... good, we have another question in the
Sorry,
back of
Luke,
the room.
Luke, one more question. Just touching again on the point really you've just been asked about. As a stud that has a number of stallions, we do have a list, should we say, of clients that might have a little question mark against their form. Will you be offering a service, almost a rating system? If someone has repeatedly not paid, will they still be allowed to try and use your service?
We've actually talked about that over time, and as the site develops, people will be able to get points, going forward. But we haven't put that in place at the moment. But it's something that can Mike, you've talked plenty of times about.
Let's bring Mike up onto the stage. Come on, Mike can come and answer the difficult questions. Come here so people can see you. Come on.
So in terms of functionality being added to the website, ratings, reviews, all that kind of thing is something that we may consider. As for the original question, which was, I'm not quite sure. Can you just repeat the original question?
Well, no, basically, there are breeders that don't pay. There are breeders that are underhand. Thankfully, not many of them. But face to face, we know who they are. So if the following year we can have a red flag against their name. With the anonymity here, that's just a little bit concerning. That they'll
Yeah, so you will know before the contract is signed who you're dealing with in terms of the mare owner, the breeder.
But will they be allowed to use your service the following year if they have not paid the previous year, to put it bluntly?
James, I mean, once you know who that person is, that's up to you. If you know that they've got a bad debt with you at Shadwell, then you don't sign the contract. End of story.
But then they're anonymous the following year again.
Well, it's got the potential to be anonymous. You're at the point of signing the contract, it is not anonymous. So you're never at risk of signing a contract with somebody that you don't want to sign with.
We also have comprehensive terms and conditions on the website, and it is the right of Buyanom.com to refuse membership to anybody. So, if we get repeated contact from a stud farm to say this person's not paying, obviously we wouldn't do it automatically, but we can investigate that and restrict membership to whoever we like, including if they abuse the website terms and conditions themselves.
Amy here in the front.
Is there a facility for the stud farm to refuse a mare if the contract is between two third parties? If the contract isn't actually with the stud itself, if it's with the breeder who has, I don't know, a breeding right or something, can the stud farm, once that deal's been
Well, once a contract has been signed, the person who owns the nomination and has sold it in a normal situation and in this situation will contact the stud farm to say that they have sold the nomination to whoever it may be.
And can the stud then refuse the mare if they don't feel she's of a sufficient quality for that stallion, or if she doesn't fit? Or
I don't think so. I think that's free market forces apply there. Maybe there's a circumstance that I can't think of where a stud farm wouldn't want that particular mare on, but that might be more for health reasons or veterinary reasons. I don't think that's, in the normal course of events, it's a free market. People can sell their nomination to whoever they want. I don't think that's a situation that normally exists.
Do we have any more questions? Or can we let Ted and Luke go and have a glass of wine and maybe mingle? Oh, here we go. My dad's got a question. This will be good. Not for me, they're for them.
If I understood correctly, the membership is £200 per owner or per singular individual that enlists. Don't you think it's slightly unfair that somebody could enlist for £200 and own 50 mares, and somebody with one mare has to pay the same amount of money?
And you wonder where I get my frugality from.
I was thinking of you, Cheska. I'm trying to help.
Mike's coming up for this one.
Yeah, so the £200 is to use the site. So for every nomination that you list after that, that's an extra £100. So if you've got 15 mares, you're going to pay £1,500 to sign a contract with all those 15 mares on top of your 200.
No, okay, so the membership is 200. So whether I've got one mare, I pay the same membership as you with your hundreds of mares. But when you sign your contract, you pay an extra, what was it? £100. So essentially the costs are going to be higher for you than they are for me. The membership is a flat rate, but you pay every time you sign a contract through the website.
Yeah,
I know.
With £200 and one mare is more than...
Mike, would you give me a discount with my one mare?
Ooh. I'd have to leave it to the technical directors.
I think I would suggest, Luca, that hopefully Buyanom will save you the £200 and then you'll be happy.
Well, do you know what? That's my next announcement, because the good news is that for everybody here tonight, you get a free membership to Buyanom.com. And that's not it. Oh, hang on. Mother's got a question now.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Have you got any of the working? Have you got any of the big stallion stations to come up with? Are they going to add their stallions to it, or is it just the people or the stallions who are struggling?
No, it's for everybody, Sarah. It's absolutely for everybody. And we hope that from the public stallion farm's point of view, this is going to be very time saving. You're not going to have to ring up the person at the office to discuss your mare and discuss the foal that she's had this year and find that they're busy that afternoon or they'll be back tomorrow or whatever it is. You just make your offer, and it should save an awful lot of time. And if you're dealing with an awful lot of nominations, time is money. And I think that one or two of the stallion farms have already picked up on this, that the people that they have working for them can actually deploy their time more usefully than sitting talking about contracts in an office, and they can get out and be promoting their stallions much more out in the field and around the country.
Do we have
Just-
any more?
Just one more question. I was a little bit confused before. Let's say, hypothetically, Frankel, booked right out, can't get a nomination to him, but we decide to release one onto the market. Now, his service fee, for one of example, is £200,000, but is there make an offer above the service fee if someone's keen for it?
Yes, there'll be a facility to be able to put a base to the offer, and that should encourage people to.
Okay, so it is almost like a bidding format in that respect. On
Only if people want the full advertised price, you'll be able to set it at the full advertised price. So you would only get offers at that price and above. So you wouldn't get any below.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure about that, but thank you.
Yeah, so like you said, it has to be at the advertised price, and if it is a stallion that's in high demand, such as Frankel, and there aren't many left of them, it'll be listed at 200,000, but I might make an offer with my mare at 200, but you'll say no, and then you'll counter offer, you'll say I want 210, 220, and then that's when you get the bidding war essentially between the parties on that.
Correct, and in those sort of elite nominations, there'll also be the opportunity to make offers of no guarantee, which I think will be attractive for those particular stallions.
Great. Do we have any more questions? Yep, with loads more.
We've got two here. We've got one here first.
Would it not be better maybe to allow the people who own the mares to have a free membership completely, and therefore have the body of the base of people there to be able to buy the nominations off the stallion owners? Because surely the people who are the most important people are the buyers, and getting everybody to pay £200 is probably a lot when you consider that actually what we're trying to do here is to sell nominations. And is it sensible to be charging the people who are a membership fee and not just charging them when the transaction happens?
I think comparative to sort of commissions and things, I think it's quite good value. It's £200, and you can bid, you can take. You're only paying another £100 when you do the contract, but you can bid on 15 nominations with all your mares. But there will be. There will be. Yeah.
Well, it will evolve, Luca, and I think people will find that when the market gets going, £200 to have access to every nomination, to have the opportunity to buy every nomination on the site, I think is going to be very, very good value. I mean, you think of the amount of time that you would spend trying to buy those nominations, perhaps at value, £200, you clock £200 worth of time up extremely quickly.
Right, well maybe it's something to be thought about. Another question here?
Sorry,
I think it's important to see that you can search for all the stallions without actually being a member.
You can bid a substantial amount less than what it stands for. You can bid without being a member.
No, you can't bid without being a member, but you can come on the site and see all the stallions that have availability. Well, they're all going to be advertised at the farm price. They will not ever be advertised for anything less than that, but you'll see what's available.
I think, and some, maybe some of the breeding right owners will sell their nominations for substantially less than maybe the farm would, and a cheeky offer might save you thousands.
Sorry, just following on from Luca and Simon's question there, with a breeder paying £100 on top for every nomination purchased, does the stallion farm also pay an extra £100 for every nomination sold?
He pays £100 to list each nomination.
So just the once, not for every nomination sold.
Yeah. So in the case of a farm, for example, Shane, say you put, for the sake of example, 10 expert eye nominations on Buyanom.com. The first one will list. Let's assume it gets sold. The second one will list. That's cost you £200. That one gets sold. you're up to £300. So it can only ever cost you £100 more than anything that you've sold. And equally, you've got the opportunity to withdraw them too if you would, if you choose to.
So it's £100 per nomination. Per
£100 per listing.
Okay.
All good, I think. Any more?
Just a random on the contracting side. Obviously, the contract would be between the buyer and the person that's listed it. What about if it's someone selling a breeding right from the stallion farm side? You've done the deal outside of us, but we still need a contract signed on our end. And obviously the details of the person who is sending said mare. So would you be contacting us? Would we be involved in when you sold the contracts?
The nominate. I didn't hear all of it, but I think what you're saying is how do we involve the stud farms, and the nomination owner, lister, has the responsibility and has to tick a box to say has a responsibility to update the stallion farm of the transaction and the details of the mare.
I mean, I think in general, as we've said earlier, we want this to be as good as it can possibly be. So we really welcome all your feedback over the coming weeks and in the future. We think we've got the principles right. We've given it an awful lot of thought. There has been some really good questions, some very relevant questions, but come and talk to us. This is a starting point in some ways, and it can only get better from here, we think.
Good words. I think we'll
Another one.
leave it there.
Another one.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add that Mike Madden and Chris Powell will be at Tattersalls tomorrow. So any of you who've got some questions, some ideas, some suggestions, they'd love to meet you. They'd love to hear them. Please come and be in touch.
Great.
If a mare owner has a particular stallion that he or she wants, but there isn't an offer listed on the site,
Good point.
but one becomes on the site, will they get a notification? Because otherwise they have to keep looking at the site to see if whether one comes up.
Yeah, great question, James. We have a facility that you will be able to watch stallions as a member of the site, and it will email you when one comes available on the site. So you could do that for a number of stallions, and it will automatically tell you when they're added.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody, for being such a good audience, for being so attentive, and for asking such great questions. I think, like Luke said, the feedback is really good and really helpful. And you've both said that we want to go about making this site as useful for everybody in the room and everybody involved in the industry. So keep giving your feedback, keep chatting to these guys, whether it's tonight or at the sales throughout the week. And most importantly, thank you very much for coming. And please pick up a Buyanom.com gift bag on your way out. I hope orange is your colour. Thank you very much. Good night.